Welcome, everybody, to this week's Distressed Property Call. This podcast and broadcast is brought to you by Home Loan Advocates. That's right, my partner David Bartels at Home Loan Advocate. They specialized in distressed property solutions for buyers, sellers, investors, and realtors across the country. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter the situation you're in. If you're working on a distressed property and you need some assistance, call 805-413-8000. Again, that number is 805-413-8000. Ask for David Bartels or visit homeloanadvocates.com. Or if you'd like, send David an email at david@homeloanadvocates.com. This episode is also brought to you by Monster Marketing. That's right. That's the reason this call started and why we do it each and every week. Monster Marketing. It is a direct marketing method that I created to get face-to-face with people that have missed payments. It's literally 3% of the market, some more in other areas, but Monster Marketing guarantees face-to-face results with these people. We will give you proven step-by-step coaching, training, and mentoring so that you can convert those individuals into listings or deals, depending on being a realtor or investor. If you would like to find out more, go visit Honish.com. That's HONISH.com.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to your weekly podcast call. My name is Lee Honish. This is your distressed property call. Really, what this call has really become about is, strangely, we became the hot thing yet again just by the market changing overnight. And if you don't believe that distressed properties are coming, we'll talk about it. First and foremost, my name is Lee Honish. I am a marketer, as I said earlier, of all things great and small. I like my literary references. Go to Honish.com. That's what you're looking at on the screen. It's a form. Fill it out. My phone number's there, 858-663-2537. Text me. I'll call you. Or fill out the form. I will call you. I will spend an hour with you. I will listen to all of your amazing marketing ideas, and I will actually help you improve them, even if I don't like them. Don't believe me? I spent an hour last week talking to someone about mailers, and if you're a regular listener or watcher of our videos, or however you come by us, you'll know that I don't like mailers. But I listened to the guy and I talked to him and I told him how to personalize letters and how to do handwritten fonts and to improve his marketing piece. Simple as that. I am joined, as always, by David Bartels of Home Loan Advocates, voted by a group of his peers as the number one short sale mitigation company on the planet Earth. David, how are you today?
I'm doing just fine, thanks. How are you?
Doing great. Tell people about homeloanadvocates.com.
Well, Home Loan Advocates is a national organization of like-minded real estate professionals who are focused on helping distressed homeowners avoid foreclosure and identify the right alternative to best suit their needs. And that might be a short sale. It could be a loan modification. It could just mean they need more time. And if you've got one of those situations, we're happy to help. 805-413-8000, 805-413-8000. Of course, email is david@homeloanadvocates.com.
Simple as that. So get off your duff. First and foremost, I apologize to the regular podcast people. You didn't get a show last week because there was no way that show would have worked as a podcast. I made that as a production note thinking there's no way that's going to work. And to the coaching students, sorry, for some reason, my video of me shooting myself like a doorknob running around. So it became sort of a coaching call exclusive of watching us make a video of how to do content. I promise today I will do a video to show the step-by-step process and how simple it is. And I don't have a lot of technical gear. I tend to have stuff that sounds good and looks good. In fact, I'm thinking of upgrading my system with stuff I already have just for sound quality. So I'll shoot that video today and I'll add that as a bonus to this week's show. As always, for those of you listening, those of you that are coaching students, go to coachingcalls.info. That's coachingcalls.info. There you can find a link and you can join us live every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. There is a link on that page, as well as David's number and as well as my number. All the calls are up to date. There are literally, not figurative, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of coaching calls. Because, like it or not, you are in a distressed market. So I came across, let's just jump right into my market data, David. I started to jump into market data to see if my hypothesis of the crashing of this market was for real. So we all know we're going to go into a recession. There's no way to avoid that. Let's start right there. Is there any feasible way that we avoid a recession before the end of the year?
Well, I think you could argue we're in a recession already. So, so I'm going to go with no way to avoid it.
Right. I would tend to agree.
Now,
and
how severe it's going to be and how long it's going to take, that's all up for debate.
I agree. I agree with that as well. I know that if you go, let's just talk stats that are happening in the market. If you go by the Mortgage Brokers Association or the Mortgage Brokers Group, they're doing great, David. They don't seem to see a problem whatsoever. In fact, I ran into a coaching call student or a monster student, Tom Caskey, who lives down the street in Carlsbad. And as I was out, because they've allowed everybody to go spread the coronavirus love in front of my house again, they reopened us on Monday, David. So right. Tom Caskey came by and he goes, no, I've been working on mortgages. And he goes, it's great right now. But he goes, I don't think it can last. I said, I don't think it can last either, Tom. Maybe you want to start thinking about remonstering or starting to get back into the distressed market. He goes, do you think it's going to be that big a deal? I said, do you not think that people who've done 90-day forbearance agreements that are due in 90 days, right, aren't going to have issues paying back the 90 days that they owe people? Here's my personal and professional opinion about mortgagers and renters. And tell me if my hypothesis is wrong. I believe that people called either their bank or their landlord. They took a 90-day forbearance. Let's just go with the 20%, David, that are documented. That group, based on the way the law is structured, in 90 days is going to owe a balloon payment because they didn't get a forbearance agreement to tack it on the back end of their lease or on the back end of their loan. And I believe that there is going to be a large percentage of people that took 90-day forbearance agreements that are going to be due in 90 days, which by my math would be sometime in July.
Yeah, that math works.
I think really, because this is a distressed property call. We've said it literally since we've been doing it for the last decade. We've had spikes from 2% as high as 5% or 6%, depending on when you want to talk about points in the market. We can go back to when I started in 2007 and go, yeah, those were crazy numbers, right? We're coming up in July on a balloon for people who believe, and here's the sad part. Nobody took a position of advocacy except us. I'm not trying to toot our horn here. We took a position of advocacy for people who missed payments, period. Didn't matter. Didn't matter if you were a renter. Didn't matter if you were a buyer. Didn't matter if you were a seller. Didn't matter if you had bad credit. We tried to make ourselves monster marketing, advocate marketing, all our affiliates, all the people we've been associated with over the last decade, David, right? Love them, like them, or hate them. We've had this consortium of people across the country who've literally just tried to work with people who are struggling to make their payment. And we did successfully well. But like most things in real estate, if that's not the hot thing, people aren't interested in it anymore. And it's just kind of the nature of the beast. And I just feel it in my bones, having looked at the way that most of these deals are structured and people going back to, I believe the bank. They asked me for all my information and they gave me a 90-day forbearance agreement. I'm trying to do my Oklahoma, right? I just feel that I got family. I feel I got
That's
family
really bad
members.
and probably offensive to a whole lot of people.
You know what? I'm from Oklahoma originally. So if people want to get on me for being Southern and hillbilly, I'm down with it, okay? So I'm just saying that I'm pretty sure that I got family members in Oklahoma as we speak. We called the bank, Lee. What do we do? Well, you were an idiot and you believed the bank and you didn't call your cousin first. By the way, I can't even lie about this. I have a cousin named Skeeter. Okay, I have a cousin named Skeeter. All right. And here's the truth of the bank, and you know this, and I know this, David. The banks take advantage of people being nice, right? They believe that the bank is their friend. They believe that the landlord is their friend. They believe that their creditors are going to be okay with you missing a few payments. No, they're not. They're not. They're not.
Yeah.
They don't know you. It's funny because I shot that video a couple of weeks ago with Fred and a couple of people, and I said this. I said it's the same thing I said in 2007, the first day I ever spoke. The bank, the creditors, everyone is not your friend. They don't know you, they don't like you, and they want your money. That's all they care about. It's not a joke. From your perspective, mitigating files, I mean, just good advice for. I just know the agents are going to come back to this. I know what's about to happen in July. I'm trying to get people geeked up. I'd love for everybody to do monster marketing, which is generally why I took it off the market, because I'm not giving it away anymore. I think everybody's going to flock back to this product and flock back to this coaching and go, I want to do monster marketing. Remember when you offered it for whatever you offered it for? Good for you. Why should I reward you when I've had 500 coaching students for the last 10 years who bought into the mythology, the mythos, right, of being an advocate, helping people, and being involved, when it's clearly obvious the shit's going to hit the fan here?
Well, I think that there's definitely a shift taking place. So, listen, I had another coaching call I did this morning, and one of the comments that I made is, listen, markets go up, markets go down, foreclosures go up, foreclosures go down. It's seller's market, it's a buyer's market. At the end of the day, as professionals, our job is to help people trying to buy, sell houses during this market period. And we just have to figure out how to adapt. And there's two different kinds of data. There's data that really tells you what the current and near future trends are likely to be, and then there's data that validates whether or not that was true or not, which what we call trailing indicators that might come months later. And I think this is one of those situations here, is that there's clear evidence that there's going to be there's a very high level of missed payments, in the form of forbearance. But there's two kinds of forbearance. There's the forbearance where you called the bank, you made an agreement with them, and they agreed not to make you make those payments immediately, at least for 90 days. And then there's the one where, I don't have to make my payments, and people just stop making those payments and never talk to the bank, and then are confused why they're getting collection and foreclosure notices. So we know that there's going to be a lot of distressed property activity. Fannie and Freddie and FHA, and I think that includes VA and Ginnie Mae. They are going to do the forbearances where it gets tacked on as a balloon note at the end of the term.
Right.
And they may be able to extend it up to 12 months, but you have to apply and you have to ask. I mean, you get 90 days kind of as all you got to do is breathe, and they'll give you 90 days. And, then you have to pay it at the end. And then there's the 40% who the banks are saying right now, okay, well, you can skip a payment, but at the end of 90 days, which is the 120th day, you're gonna owe all those back payments right up front, or you're going to be delinquent. And that is an impossible task for most people in that situation. And it's really going to be a spike. And people keep saying, well, what is foreclosure activity going to be? And the answer to that question is, I don't really know, but I can tell you, we're going to know for sure in 6 months, because that's when, it's going to really hit the fan, and people are really going to start, freaking out. And I'm interested to know what percentage of people understand that they're going to have to make up their 90 days of payments in the fourth month right now, or the bank is just saying, don't worry about it, and they're sending it to them in a letter that they may or may not read, explaining
Right.
how that term is going to go. The other thing that we're seeing now is we're getting calls from people who are saying, I can't make my payment. I'm on a forbearance program, but they're going to make me make the payments back at the end of the 90 days. And I'm not going to be able to do that. And they're ready to start selling now. They're ready to figure out how to, so their goal is to sell the house before they get to the 90 days. And that creates an instant opportunity for real estate agents that are out there in the market, and investors too. They for the same reason I like distressed properties is that there's not that much competition for them. And number two is that the foreclosure date basically gives them a deadline that they've got to take some action to avoid the ultimatum of losing their house that foreclosure represents. So I think that the agents that remain active, investors who remain active, are finding all kinds of opportunity. And from what I can tell, the Robert Fergosas of the world are who's an investor, most of the people on this call would know, continues to do well. And I see his post on Facebook where he's saying that he's finding all kinds of opportunities. There's not as many deals, but the ones that he's getting are, sorry, that's my phone. The ones that he's getting, I tried to hang up. The ones he's getting are finding really great values. And I know I've sent him some distressed properties to look at, and he's hitting them low. So if he's getting them, he's really finding great value. And then they got the sellers who, they need to sell. They don't necessarily want to sell, but they're willing to go through the motions, and they're afraid that the market's not going to deliver a premium price. So there's plenty of opportunities for them. And we're seeing properly priced stuff still sell with lots of multiple offers. So I think there's lots of opportunities now, and people who are working are going to do very well, and people who aren't are probably going to complain that the market is not any good.
Yeah, I completely get that. And I've seen it a lot lately. As someone who generates leads for people, I've been generating refunds for people that I know, in fact, have gotten leads. And it's because it's too much work right now. It's because it's not a listing. It's because it's always expectations, right? And I say this to anybody who wants to get involved in distressed properties, and maybe you can flesh this out a little bit more. It's not simple. It's easy to get face-to-face. That's what Monster Marketing really is at the end of the day. It's a guaranteed face-to-face result. It still works. It's still going to work in this whole kind of issue. There's no change to the way Monster Marketing works. But the reality is now you have a curveball, right? When you go to the front door, oh, I've talked to the bank. They're giving me forbearance agreements. Oh, I've talked to the bank. They want to, is that going to change the dynamic from your perspective, right, going forward? Because spreader theory is going to be back. The banks are going to push it back. They're going to hide files. They're going to do everything they did in 2007 to 2010 to try to make this a manageable pile. And I personally believe, and for those of you who don't know, I am the former head loss mitigator for IndyMac Bank's HELOC division. And the reason you hate short sales is because of me and 3 other people who I could probably name, but I'm not. They probably deserve to live their life in confinement.
Confinement?
That's what we all are, aren't we? I mean, they haven't released anybody yet, as far as I know.
I thought maybe they,
Well, okay, maybe one of them is in Newport Beach on house arrest still to this day. Okay, I'm just saying that out loud. All right?
Okay. All right.
Who may have been my boss's cousin. All right? Let's not play between the lines here. All right?
Okay.
But with all that said, and for all the meetings that I've ever sat in, the idea was, how do we make it manageable? And I think they've learned, right? 2006 isn't that far away. We have better data tracking. We have better analytics. We have better software. We have a higher, everything is different now than I got into the business, David, in 1988. Yes, I'm that old. Thank you. And we were coming off that first kind of cycle of waves, right? I worked for Beneficial of California doing their REOs and foreclosures, buying their seconds, thirds, and dare I even say fourth position loans long before HELOCs were created. And they were generating those loans in these really bad marginal cycles. And everybody back then was doing the same comment. If I had learned the mistakes that I learned the last time and knew to buy then and knew to buy now, blah, blah, blah. But saw the cycle happen again and again. And then we saw the building peak in the cycle and the crash in 2007. So I suspect, and I want to believe this about Wells Chase, B of A, Quicken, everybody else who isn't bolted down, that they've kind of prepared for this. They have a different analytical model. They have a different approach, which is first, make it manageable, right? How do we spread this out as far as we can, right? Let's line up our investors on the back end who are going to buy in bulk. What are they going to want? What's their penny? Like, I'm convinced that they've got a complete game plan. And I'm going to say this to every realtor out there. If you think REOs are coming back, because, and I know this because Sharon actually texted me this, she was doing BPOs again. I said, I suspect you'll be doing a lot of BPOs. But if you think you're going to get actual listings out of it, I wouldn't hold my breath. If I'm an asset manager working in today's market, if somebody called me up right now, my first logic would be, who's the biggest investor I can buy who can buy in bulk at the correct percentages that make me the most amount of money at the end of every week. And I know that sounds weird to everybody, but a banker gets paid a salary plus a bonus. So if I have a percentage to hit, like you want me to make 20 or 30 or 40% back on every dollar, and I hit that, then I get X amount of bonus. Anything above that, I get a percentage. That's the asset manager way. I am completely convinced everybody's battling, kind of buckling down for this, David. Like, I think come July, you'll see the first wave. And I think everybody's going to be shocked that it's not going to be the discussion of, I've got a lawyer to take care of this. I think we're going back to the basics of, I talked to the bank, they said it was okay. I think that's going to be the number one answer at the door. If I were going to vote right now on analytics of what their response is going to be, it's not going to be, I've hired a lawyer, because they don't have any money to hire a lawyer. I'm not being crappy about it. I'm just being honest. Nobody has money to hire a lawyer right now. They're going to say that they've called the bank and they've worked out a deal. That's going to be the number one response. So let's talk about this from a scripting perspective, right? You put up the monster, you get the face-to-face, or you change your scripting, you're doing an online presentation, David. And now I say, you know what? I've talked to the bank and they're taking care of it. They're going to give me a 90-day forbearance. What's your response to that?
Well, my response is beware. You said something earlier that said that was, people are calling and think the bank is their friend. And so I always think about this when you call a bank and ask for anything, is that when you're on hold waiting for the bank, what you hear is, this is an attempt to collect, this call is being recorded. Right. This is an attempt to collect the debt. Any information we gather will be used for that purpose. So, and if that doesn't make it really clear what the bank's intention, all the information that they gather from you, whether or not it's in the spirit of cooperation or helping you, at the end of the day, the bank's job is to collect that debt, and they will use all that information they gather, even if it's, a wolf in sheep's clothing, in order to gather that debt. And maybe not today, but down the road, they'll go back and use that information. Everything that you give them, all your income, where you work, how much you make, your bank account information, all that stuff is getting put in their database. And so if it gets to the point of collection, then they've got access to all that information, and they will use it to mitigate the amount of money it costs them for you to be delinquent. At the end of the day, when you're talking to loss mitigation is, how do we lose the least amount of money? Okay, right. Not how many ways can we help homeowners stay in their house without making their payment. That's not what it means. How do we help homeowners avoid foreclosure? No, they'll talk to you about that, but it's all just lulling you to sleep. And so consumers have to be very careful when talking to the bank and need to get very clear about the types of agreements that they're entering. Now, the guidelines are going to change, maybe, the Congress may mandate it, but they can't mandate a bank, do a forbearance and put it at the back of the term any more than they could mandate in 2011 that banks had to do loan modifications. All they do is create an outline, a template that banks can use, and then and then banks get to decide whether or not they want to do it. Even today, there are some banks that won't do short sales. There are some, I shouldn't say banks, I should say investors that just won't do a short sale. They just don't. It's deed in lieu or a loan modification. That's it. Nothing in between. Not too many, but we still run into them once in a while. And so you just got to be careful. Every bank is different, and every bank is different depending on who the investor is. So you might call a, say, Bank of America. You call Bank of America, and you might have 3 different houses, and you want help with all 3 of them. And maybe the situation is identical. They're rental properties. My tenant's not paying. I'm not able to make the payments. What can you do? And on one, they might get a forbearance that says you don't have to worry about it until you refinance or pay off the loan. Another might get a forbearance that says you don't have to make the payments for 90 days, but on the 120th day you owe us 4 payments. And another, they might get a forbearance and saying we'll let you know how it's going to work out, once we get more clarification. But for now, you're okay. But you might have to pay it back in 120 days. And what answer you get really depends on who the investor is. Is it Fannie? Is it Freddie? FHA? Is it a jumbo loan? Is it a conventional loan? Is it a hedge fund? Who is it? So you don't know. So there's no single program out there. So you've got to be very careful, and you need to read the terms of that agreement.
So the plug goes out, and I'm going to say this to everybody. Really, you really got to heed these words. You're getting advice from a guy who negotiates short sale files on a daily basis, and you're talking to a former head loss mitigator. I'm telling you, legitimately, even if you're using the advice for yourself, you are completely wrong about whatever institution you're talking to. I'm telling you, as someone who drew a paycheck to make money off of the blood and sweat of others, as horrible as it sounds, my job was to squeeze every drop and every dollar out of every file. And I was very good at it. And I'm glad I don't want to go back to that life, actually. I don't think I was a very pleasant person in those days, David. Not to say that I'm much better these days.
You've evolved a little.
A little.
You have mellowed a little with age.
Very little. Based on the wreckage I've created, well, it's all relative.
You're still kind of an introvert for a guy that's got such a big public stage. Which
I know. Is that weird?
Fascinating to me. Yeah.
For the people that are close to me, and there's a couple of people on this call that are very close to me, like you and a couple of people that are really close to me. I know the shock to everybody is you think that I'm this big, grandiose, wild. Like you put me out in front of people, I just go. Most of the time, I'm an introvert and like to be alone. I like to be really alone. I don't like to be slightly alone. I really like being alone. In fact, I am now watching survivalist shows, David. I'm actually a little concerned for myself. I'm thinking.
Are you building a bunker?
Well, now that my beach is reopened, yeah, I might have to. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I've really been thinking, maybe I want to live on a lake by myself in a log cabin. As long as it has internet and cable, I mean, I'm okay. I could do that. David, plug Home Loan Advocates. This is a good midway break.
Well, Home Loan Advocates is somebody that you'd call if you really wanted to help somebody with a short sale. That's our primary business. We take short sales, and dead deals, time-consuming transactions that take you away from doing more productivity-based activities, and we get it done for you. And generally speaking, the bank pays our fee. So 72% of the time, the bank pays our fee, and the result is you get all your money, and we get our money, and it doesn't cost the seller or the buyer or you anything to get it done. So if you need help with a short sale, call us 805-413-8000, 805-413-8000. And the good news is short sales are gotten easier to approve.
I bet.
So all of a sudden, these deals that we've been struggling to get done, and it's been like pulling teeth to get short sales approved. All of a sudden, bam, 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 they're just getting done. And it's been a little mind-blowing the last few days as we see banks I guess they're looking to clear out that pipeline in anticipation of more. So I guess they got bigger fish to fry. So the busier the banks are with delinquent stuff, the easier it seems to be to get short sales done. Just as an FYI, that seems to be what we're learning, going back and thinking about the ebbs and flows of short sales.
Well, and I'm going to say this as a testimonial for everybody listening. I have known David since 2008-ish, plus or minus. With all of that said, the reason I'm telling you that, he was voted by a literal panel of his peers as the top negotiating expert in the country. I'm not saying that because he's probably the only person negotiating short sales at this moment. I'm just saying he was voted. We carried a vote, and he was named by a group of some of the top real estate agents in the country as the best negotiator and short sales specialist on the planet, of the world.
Yeah,
in fact, this universe.
My wife and kids were on that panel.
Pretty close. My name's Lee Honish. If you want to find out about being a part of Monster Marketing, you can get involved. You might not like what I have to say because it's not going to be exactly what it was previously. I'm working on a brand new site because come July, I think the first wave of defaults is coming through. In fact, I know it for a fact. In fact, I'm thinking of speaking come September if they'll allow me to travel. But go to Honish.com, fill out the form if you want to find out whether or not you qualify to be an advocate and join these calls and to get David's help, to get my help, to learn the Monster system and to implement it where you get guaranteed face-to-face transactions, whether or not you're locked down or not. It's very simple. You put up a marketing piece, you wait for the call, you meet with the homeowner, wear a face mask, for God's sakes. It's not that difficult. Follow the script, follow the tools, follow everything we have for you. Just go to Honish.com, fill out the form. We would love to see you on one of these calls. And last but not least, if you're listening to this, join us live every week. Go to coachingcalls.info, not .com, coaching calls with an S, .info. You can find our catalog because really, are you going to just sit at home and keep watching Tiger King repeatedly? Or my new favorite, Operation Odessa. Go to coachingcalls.info, scroll down, and watch hundreds of hours and become an expert and an advocate in the world of distress marketing. Both David's number and my number is there. We are able to be reached. We're happy to talk to you. We're happy to get you on the right track. David, let's move forward.
Sure.
Let's talk market. Let's do something positive on the back end of, it's all gloom and doom and the bank's going to get you. Yeah, well, I've been saying that since 2007 and nobody still is listening to me on the topic, but all right. I realized that at some point in September, David, I'm going to start speaking again, doing the old banker shtick of, the bank's not your friend. I'm not even sure I could still do that again. I'd have to go back and watch a videotape of myself to go back to be that guy.
Just reinvent yourself.
Come out and be a calm guy. You know what would happen? I'd wind up having like a cult. I could start a cult. I'm Koresh-like. I could see that happening. All right, let's do something positive for the second half. And I want to share some results of this week. And hopefully everybody can implement this, David included, and I'll get his feedback. But for everybody who's on the call live, For everybody who's listening, I recommend, we shot good video today. If you want to, just go to coachingcalls.info and watch the video. I'm going to do some screen shares here. This week, David, on my page, one of my clients by the name of Michael Forkas, who is a Monster student, hired me and said, Lee, I don't want to go after buyers. I want you to go after sellers. I said, all right, it's going to be a longer, slower funnel. And I say this to everybody who wants me to go after sellers. It's a longer, slower funnel, so accept it, right? David, you point out that it took you, 9 months for your funnel to produce when it comes to generating actual sellers online?
Yeah, well, so what my experience is, and if you're working with sellers, it's 6 to 9 months that they have a tendency to start clicking and interacting and having conversations, 6 to 9 months before they're ready to take any action. And I find buyers, for the most part, are 9 to 12 months. That's my experience. That lead generation, especially internet lead generation, has a little longer gestation, that has to happen. But the way that I look at it is, it's really all about pipeline. So, the key to successful sales is having an ongoing, a full pipeline. And so I always just remind myself and everybody who's asking me about it is, I'm going to need that deal in 9 months too. So it's activity equals productivity, and sometimes it's not immediate gratification. The immediate stuff is repeat business, it's referral business, it's that kind, it's open house business. That's generally the more immediate stuff, and everything else is longer term: postcards, calling, internet marketing, Facebook marketing.
It's slow.
At the end of the day, it comes down to two things: finding people to sell, and then selling the people you find. Step one is finding people to sell. And the internet is a great tool for that. And a lot of other, it's my primary tool, frankly, nowadays. And then you've got to nurture those. And I think the big mistake agents make is that they're looking for immediate gratification. And if they don't get if someone says they're interested and they can't get them on the phone after 1.5 tries, they call it a bad lead. Or if they get them on the phone and they say, I'm not quite ready to do anything yet because I got to do this and I got to do that and I got to do that, they think it's a bad lead. And for me, I think they're good leads. They're just not ready today. But when they are ready, do everything I can so that they do business with me. That's the way I look at it.
I would qualify it the opposite way, and I agree with you from your perspective. And my perspective is, I think buyers, the way I generate leads on the internet, through Facebook, through Instagram, through Twitter, through Tumblr, buyers and renters are right now, and I think sellers are looking for top dollar. At least they were. Now it's a little bit different. But the reason I bring that up is I wanted to share the message that worked. Actually, I ran a test last week because, Michael, first of all, I tell this to everybody. If you really want to understand online marketing, there are a couple of movies you should go watch online. And if you're interested, go to honish.com, fill out the form, and I'll tell you what to go watch. You can be an expert marketer. There's a little tag. But I got Michael hipped up to the way that I go after sellers online. It is going to take more time, and he's okay with that. So what you're looking at is a video that I posted on my business page as I prep up his business page, because most of you don't have a correct business page on Facebook, Instagram, on any platform, to be perfectly honest. And anybody who's told you that LinkedIn is a tremendous source of leads for your real estate business is lying to you. Facebook is actual people. There's a reason they are always in the top 5 of websites. It's just the sheer volume of human beings that are on Facebook. The question is, can you get your message to reach them? And there's 2 methods for that. So I want to talk about the message first of all and what I actually created. The video you guys are looking at on the screen is literally a Bay Area unemployment video from a local ABC affiliate. I took it into my own. I use HD Movie Maker. I'm not an Apple person. I'm not using slick Apple movie stuff like David would be using or his people. I'm using crappy Microsoft products that barely work and crash half the time. With that said, all I did was take the video and put, "Are you struggling to make payments?" And then at the bottom, I put Michael's phone numbers. That's all I did. And then I posted it with, "Are you struggling to make home payments? Do you need help?" I put Michael's contact information with a link to Michael directly, and then a squeeze page at the end of it. I have waffled on this, David. This is going to be big for people who followed me for a long time. I'm back to squeeze pages. When you click on this link, it will take you to a Michael Forkas squeeze page as a homeowner advocate. And by the way, if you're looking at this going, "This looks no different than a missed payment." Right. It's no different than a missed payment. This is what I've been trying to say through the whole show. Is there any difference between the coronavirus missed payment and a missed payment for a homeowner, David?
No.
Yep. So whatever you've got, including, and
There
I want
is?
to say that, no, there isn't. No. My point was, no, there isn't, right? Which is, for those of you that are homeowner advocates with David, right, and you're part of that program, why aren't you doing home loan advocates and pointing everybody right now, period? Anybody you meet, "Hey, are you struggling to make, are you doing forbearance, whatever?" You should go to homeloanadvocates.org. Period. There's no difference. The alternatives to foreclosure don't change. So I did a squeeze page based on a page I had already built, based on information, the alternatives to foreclosure that we've talked about forever, the 9 alternatives, right? Plugged in his information and then put a squeeze page to it. And so I want to share these numbers of actually doing this, and anybody can do it. And I don't know why more people aren't. The message actually reached 643 people on 35 shares. It had 57 engagements. I'm not an expert, David. That's about 8% on engagements, right? Plus or minus. I'm not good at math.
I'll let you do the math. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's about 8%. But what is really important here is what happened on the lead page end. I got my 1%. I got 9 views. I got 8 unique visitors, and I got 1 conversion. So here's how it works. 1% doesn't change. Tell me if I'm talking too geeky marketing. 1% will never change in marketing with spam marketing. So if you send a mailer, if you door knock, if you cold call, if you do internet marketing, the best you can hope for is anywhere from a 0.5% to a 3% response. The sweet spot generally in my line of work, if you hit 1% to 2%, you have a really good marketing piece. Is that your understanding of spam marketing, David?
Yes.
Okay. And internet is no different for anybody out there. So the goal when you create a piece like this is how many people can I get to see it? Now, there are 2 methodologies. I did mine through sharing to groups directly within the targeted market, and I got what I was after. The other is boosting, right? Wow, there's my dry cough, David. I just walked on the beach today.
No.
Does it work that quick?
No, it's 2 weeks.
So you're a booster, David, right? So if you had this piece and you had it out, you've got your funnel in line. What would you consider an acceptable boost for this type of product?
In terms of dollar amount?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. So what I usually do, well, it depends on what your budget is, but you could do it. I would probably do like $5 a day for 5 or 7 days. And then I would watch it. And if after 2 or 3 days, I was getting above average click-through rates, then I would probably double it. And if it was getting below average, I would probably take it down and retweak it and try something else.
I completely agree with you. So there's a couple of different perspectives. So I'm going to just show quickly how this is done for anybody out there. Have you been testing any taglines for people missing payments or struggling to make payments? Because basically, I just go to YouTube these days, depending on the market of my client. Let's say San Bernardino, okay? Missed payment or coronavirus. I don't know why everybody's making this kind of difficult, right? Keep it as simple as possible. This is live content that can be used. And or San Bernardino missed payments. You kind of have to play with it. I know that you like to shoot your own original content. I just tend to like and lean towards using actual news because it gives a little bit more credibility to what's going on. What's your perspective on creating content for this type of call to action?
Well, I think any kind of content, it doesn't really matter. You just want the content to be engaging.
Right.
And it can be original content, it could be third party content that that supports your opinion. It could be a still photo, it doesn't even have to be a video, it could be a newspaper article, or magazine article that just kind of gives you some third party credibility. And then it's kind of, if this is happening to you, there are 9 alternatives, and we'd be happy to give you a consultation.
And this is the big part that I say to everybody, especially those that I work with, right? The biggest deal about this video, the biggest deal, period, is not whether or not they click through and they go off to a squeeze page. It's great and it's helpful. Or they click Michael's name and they go to his profile and they send him a message. It's great, but that's not what I'm after. What I care most about is how many people physically looked at this thing, because the way of the branding is what matters. And if you've got 200 people who saw this name and this number, you're winning the game. It's 189 people. That's a lot of people who saw that name and that phone number. Whether or not they wrote it down, the repetition, we talk about this all the time, David, and I know you've sat in these meetings. How important is repetition, top of mind, repetition, top of mind?
It's the most important thing.
Right. And that's all it comes down to. And if they understand that in the Bay Area, Michael's the person to go to, and they see that number repeatedly, might not be the first time, might not be the second time, but eventually it'll pay off. And that's ultimately the message that's out there. David, one more time, tell them about Home Loan Advocates.
Well, we're a national organization of like-minded real estate agents and investors who specialize in helping homeowners facing foreclosure to understand the alternatives to foreclosure. And most of the time, they realize that the alternative is ultimately to sell their house, and then we collect the fees in the process of helping them do that. My number is 805-413-8000, 805-413-8000. Of course, David at homeloanadvocates.com.
Simple as that. And if you're interested in finding out about Monster Marketing or having any marketing done for you whatsoever, go to honish.com or text me at 858-663-2537. You can find me on all forms of social media. Lee Honish, LEEHONISH period. I was going to say .com. It's honish.com. But on social media, I'm at Lee Honish on every single platform out there. In fact, I've gotten involved in testing Instagram again to see if there's an angle that I have personally missed, because I like to do it. And last but not least, go to coachingcalls.info. Coaching Calls, COACHINGCALLS.info, not .com, .info. You can find all the back issues, all the backlogs, all the videos, links to be here and join us live every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. You can find David's contact number. You can find my contact number. We're happy to help you each and every week.